Tehran just issued an emergency red alert. Any warship crossing the Strait of Hormuz is now locked in missile crosshairs. For 24 straight years, Washington warned Iran was weeks away from a nuclear weapon. But a newly unsealed Pentagon roadmap reveals a far more chilling reality. The nuclear alarm was never the endgame. It was the ultimate smokescreen for a quarter-century war plan. Turn on any mainstream television news broadcast over the last 2 decades, and the soundtrack never changes. A breaking news banner flashes across the screen in urgent crimson. A grim-faced news anchor leans into the camera, citing fresh satellite imagery of centrifuges spinning deep beneath the barren mountains of Natanz and Fordow. We are told, with absolute diplomatic certainty, that Tehran is enriching uranium to 60% purity, creeping dangerously close to the 90% weapons-grade threshold. Every 6 months, like clockwork, officials steps up to a podium in Washington or Tel Aviv to deliver the exact same verdict. Time is running out, the diplomatic window is slamming shut, and military strikes are the only option left on the table. The official narrative presented to the global public is simple, clean, and universally terrifying. In this story, the United States is cast as the reluctant global sheriff, desperately trying to prevent a radical theocracy from acquiring the world's most destructive weapon. Sanctions are piled upon sanctions, cutting off Iran's central bank, freezing its oil tankers on the high seas, and locking its 88 million citizens out of the global financial system. Whenever tensions flare in the Persian Gulf, the public justification is always the same: non-proliferation. International Atomic Energy Agency inspection reports are parsed line by line on cable news networks, and every diplomatic summit in Geneva or Vienna is framed as humanity's last stand against an imminent mushroom cloud. For years, public opinion across the Western world accepted this narrative at face value. After all, who would want another nuclear-armed state in an already volatile region? The logic seemed airtight. If Iran stops enriching uranium, peace can prevail. If Iran continues, war is inevitable. Look closely at the timeline, and the entire public story fractures under the weight of its own contradictions. Consider this single, glaring historical anomaly. In 1992, intelligence briefings presented to the United States Congress claimed Iran would possess a nuclear bomb by 1997. When 1997 arrived, the prediction was quietly pushed back to 2002. In 2003, the timeline was reset to 2007. By 2012, political leaders were displaying cartoon bomb diagrams at the United Nations General Assembly, warning that Iran was 90% along the path to weaponization. Then came 2015, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The historic Iran nuclear deal was formally signed by the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, Germany, and Iran. This agreement placed Iran under the most intrusive inspection regime ever devised in human history. Over the next 3 years, the International Atomic Energy Agency issued 15 consecutive quarterly reports confirming that Iran was in full, verifiable compliance with every single restriction. Iran dismantled thousands of centrifuges, poured concrete into the core of its heavy water reactor at Iraq, and shipped 98% of its enriched uranium stockpile out of the country. Yet, in May 2018, the United States government unilaterally walked away from the treaty, tore up its own commitments, and reimposed the most brutal economic siege in modern history. Why would a superpower deliberately destroy the very agreement that guaranteed the elimination of the nuclear threat it claimed to fear most? If this multi-decade standoff was genuinely about nuclear centrifuges, resolving the technical inspection protocols should have brought an end to the crisis once and for all. Instead, every time a diplomatic solution came within reach, the goalposts were abruptly moved. New preconditions were demanded, and the threat of military confrontation was revived. The truth is, staring us in the face, the ticking clock of the nuclear crisis was manufactured to hide a much larger, 24-year grand strategy designed to reshape the entire Middle East. To understand what is really happening, we must peel back the layers of public rhetoric and trace the money, the energy arteries, and the classified war orders that were drafted long before the first centrifuge ever spun. To uncover the real driving force behind this 24-year standoff, we must follow the oldest rule in investigative strategy: cui bono, who actually profits from eternal confrontation? Look at the balance sheets of the world's largest defense contractors whenever tensions with Iran escalate. Every time a crisis erupts in the Persian Gulf, stock prices for aerospace and weapons giants Lockheed Martin, RTX, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman surge on Wall Street. A state of permanent near war with Tehran is not a foreign policy failure. For the military-industrial complex, it is an exceptionally lucrative multi-decade business model. Consider the scale of the capital flows. Over the past 2 decades, the specter of an aggressive, nuclear-capable Iran has served as the primary sales pitch for the largest arms bazaar in human history. Washington has secured hundreds of billions of dollars in weapons contracts with Persian Gulf monarchies. We are talking about over $110 billion in a single arms package to Saudi Arabia, signed in 2017, which expanded into a broader $350 billion 10-year procurement pipeline. We are talking about tens of billions more in advanced F-15SA fighter jets, Patriot missile batteries, and terminal high-altitude area defense systems sold to the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain. These monumental hardware transactions are not bought for decorative purposes. They are financed, justified, and constantly renewed under the single premise of shielding the region from Iranian ballistic missiles. Every THAAD battery installed on the sands of the Arabian Peninsula carries a price tag of several $billion. Every single Patriot PAC-3 MSE interceptor fired into the night sky costs upwards of $4 to $5 million. When regional tensions ease, weapons procurement slows down. When tensions are reignited by ominous intelligence warnings about Iranian nuclear breakouts, defense budgets expand, emergency arms sales are pushed through Congress, and executive bonuses in the defense sector reach all-time highs. The financial architecture extends far beyond defense hardware sales. The ongoing confrontation provides the strategic justification for the United States to maintain an extensive military footprint across the Middle East. The U.S. Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Manama, Bahrain, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates, represent hundreds of billions of dollars in continuous Pentagon appropriations, logistics contracts-based construction projects, and private defense service agreements. Tens of thousands of American troops and private contractors are stationed across a ring of military installations encircling Iran. Major government contractors like KBR, Halliburton, and Amentum have generated billions managing supply chains, fuel depots, and base infrastructure. If peace were officially declared, and if Iran were integrated into the regional security architecture as a normal trading partner, the justification for this gargantuan military empire would evaporate overnight. Then look at global energy markets. Every headline warning of war in the Persian Gulf injects a built-in risk premium of $10 to $20 on every barrel of crude oil traded on global exchanges. That risk premium channels tens of billions of dollars directly into the revenue streams of Western energy supermajors and speculative trading desks in New York and London. Major commodity trading desks at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Vitol, and Glencore thrive on the price volatility generated by Persian Gulf tensions, generating record profits on oil futures and derivatives. Meanwhile, sanctions on Iranian crude systematically remove over 2 million barrels per day of cheap Iranian oil from the open market, reducing global competition and allowing rival producers to capture market share at inflated prices. Furthermore, by locking European nations out of Iranian oil and natural gas imports through secondary sanctions, Western energy firms successfully replaced Persian Gulf supplies with expensive American liquefied natural gas and North Sea crude. European industry was forced to pay 3 to 4 times the global market rate for its energy inputs, while American energy exporters captured historic profit margins. When you trace the cash, the nuclear issue transforms from an ideological crusade into a multi-trillion-dollar economic engine. The crisis is engineered to be managed, sustained, and leveraged, never truly resolved. Beyond the financial windfalls lies a physical reality that no politician in Washington or Tehran can alter: geography and resource supremacy. Look at the map of the Persian Gulf. At its narrowest pinch point sits the Strait of Hormuz, a maritime corridor barely 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, with inbound and outbound shipping lanes just 2 miles wide, separated by a 2-mile buffer zone. Through this narrow strait passes 21 million barrels of crude oil and petroleum liquids every single day. Let that number sink in. 1/5 of the entire world's petroleum consumption, the very lifeblood that powers modern industrial civilization, must squeeze through a waterway completely commanded by Iran's northern coastline. In addition to crude oil, 1/3 of the world's liquefied natural gas exports, originating primarily from Qatar, must navigate this exact same narrow maritime channel. Iran is not a flat, vulnerable desert like Iraq. It is an immense 88 million-person natural fortress. The rugged Zagros mountain range stretches 1,600 kilometers along its western and southern borders, with peaks soaring past 4,000 meters. This topography gives Iranian missile batteries, subterranean launch silos and radar stations, an unassailable high ground overlook across the entire Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and every major oil terminal in the Arabian Peninsula, including Ras Tanur, the largest offshore oil loading facility on Earth, handling up to 6 million barrels per day. From these mountainous hideaways, fast attack missile craft, underwater acoustic mines, and thousands of loitering drones can close the Strait of Hormuz within minutes of an outbreak of hostilities. Iran does not need a massive blue water navy to control this bottleneck. Its asymmetric coastal defense network, armed with Noor-Ghadr and Nasir anti-ship cruise missiles, alongside Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles, turns the entire Persian Gulf into a lethal kill zone for conventional naval strike groups. Controlling or neutralizing this geographic position has been the supreme strategic obsession of Western powers for over a century. Iran sits atop the world's 4th largest proven oil reserves, with more than 208 billion barrels of crude. Even more critically, it sits atop the world's 2nd largest natural gas reserves, over 33 trillion cubic meters. Beneath the waters of the Persian Gulf lies the South Pars gas field, the single largest reservoir of natural gas on planet Earth, shared directly between Iran and Qatar. This single field contains 51 trillion cubic meters of in-situ gas and 50 billion barrels of condensate, representing 8% of the world's total gas reserves. Whoever influences Iran holds the master valve to Eurasian energy flows. The strategic stakes have expanded dramatically with the rise of the international North-South transport corridor. This 7,200-kilometer multimodal network connects the commercial hub of Mumbai, India, to Iran's deepwater port at Bandar Abbas, crossing the Caspian Sea into the heart of Russia and Western Europe. This trade route cuts shipping times between Asia and Europe from 45 days down to 25 days and slashes freight costs by 30%, all while moving completely outside the reach of the Suez Canal, the Strait of Gibraltar, and Western naval patrols. At the same time, the deepwater port of Chabahar, situated on the Gulf of Oman, outside the Strait of Hormuz, provides India and Central Asian republics with a direct maritime gateway that bypasses overland routes through Pakistan. Simultaneously, Iran serves as the indispensable overland bridge for China's Belt and Road Initiative, connecting Central Asian markets to the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean. By dominating this crossroads, Iran possesses the natural leverage to anchor an independent Eurasian economic supercontinent. The campaign to contain Tehran is an effort to prevent an integrated Eurasian economic network from operating outside the control of Western maritime trade routes. This physical landscape forms the foundation of a tectonic shift in the global balance of power, the rapid emergence of a coordinated Eurasian counter-alliance. For decades, Washington operated under the assumption that unilateral economic sanctions would isolate Iran into total submission. The reality has produced the exact opposite outcome. Rather than collapsing, Iran has been propelled into a deep, structured partnership with the two other major powers challenging Western supremacy, China and Russia. In March 2021, Beijing and Tehran signed the monumental 25-year Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, a $400 billion framework spanning infrastructure, ports, telecommunications, and energy exploration. Under this agreement, China secures a guaranteed, discounted supply of Iranian crude oil, while Iran receives direct Chinese capital investment, modern technology, 5G telecommunications infrastructure, high-speed rail networks, and access to the world's largest consumer market. Crucially, this entire trade volume is settled outside the Western banking system, utilizing the Chinese yuan, the cross-border interbank payment system, and direct barter mechanisms. Every barrel of oil traded in yuan chips away at the foundations of the petrodollar hegemony that has underpinned American economic power since 1974. On the northern front, the strategic partnership between Tehran and Moscow has evolved from cautious cooperation into a full-scale military and industrial alliance. Faced with sweeping Western sanctions following the Ukraine conflict, Moscow turned to Iran for advanced drone technology, loitering munitions, and electronic warfare components. Joint manufacturing facilities for Shahed-style drones were established in the Russian region of Tatarstan. In exchange, Iran is acquiring advanced Russian air defense systems, Nebo-M long-range radar complexes, Yak-130 combat trainers, and Su-35 supersonic multi-role fighter jets, closing the conventional air superiority gap that Western planners long relied upon. The two nations have integrated their sovereign financial messaging systems, linking Russia's SPFS with Iran's CPM, bypassing the Western-controlled SWIFT network entirely. They conduct regular trilateral naval drills alongside China in the Gulf of Oman, known as the Maritime Security Belt Exercises, demonstrating a shared capability to protect vital maritime energy corridors from foreign intervention. This trilateral cooperation was cemented in July 2023 when Iran became a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, followed by its historic induction into the BRICS economic bloc in January 2024. These memberships provide Iran with sovereign diplomatic shielding and access to alternative financial clearinghouses that render Western sanctions increasingly toothless. Within the Middle East, Iran has organized and fortified the Axis of Resistance, a decentralized, highly integrated network spanning Hezbollah in Lebanon, Ansar Allah in Yemen, the Popular Mobilization Forces in Iraq, and the Syrian Armed Forces. This alliance creates a strategic buffer zone extending from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. Hezbollah maintains an estimated arsenal of over 150,000 precision-guided missiles, capable of striking critical infrastructure across the Levant. Ansar Allah in Yemen has demonstrated the ability to disrupt maritime traffic through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait at will, challenging Western naval supremacy with low-cost asymmetric drones and anti-ship ballistic missiles. Meanwhile, inside Washington, foreign policy decisions are driven by powerful domestic lobby groups and think tanks, including the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee and the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, which promote permanent confrontation with Tehran to preserve regional dominance. Any direct strike on Iranian territory risks triggering a simultaneous multi-front missile and drone offensive capable of overwhelming missile defense shields across the entire region. The balance of power is no longer unipolar. It is an interconnected chessboard, where every Western pressure point triggers an equal and opposite reaction across Eurasia. To understand why this confrontation has lasted 24 continuous years, we must examine the classified blueprint that set this entire chain of events in motion. In March 2007, retired four-star General Wesley Clark, the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, went on television and dropped a political bombshell that should have rewritten modern history. Clark revealed that just weeks after the attacks of September 11, 2001, he visited the Pentagon and met with a senior officer on the Joint Staff. The officer held up a classified memo originating from the Office of Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and Undersecretary Paul Wolfowitz. The memo outlined a secret grand plan, the United States was going to attack and destroy 7 countries in 5 years. The target list was explicit. Start with Iraq, then move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finish off with Iran. This military agenda was not conceived in a vacuum after September 11th. It was the operational implementation of a strategy published in September 2000 by the Project for the New American Century, a neoconservative think tank whose members included Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Paul Wolfowitz. Their foundational document, titled Rebuilding America's Defenses, explicitly called for the United States to establish full-spectrum global military dominance and retain permanent control over the Persian Gulf region, regardless of whether Saddam Hussein was in power. Look back at the last 24 years of global conflict, and the accuracy of that leaked memo is chilling. In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq, toppling Saddam Hussein under the pretense of weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. In 2006, the conflict expanded into Lebanon with an intense air and ground campaign aimed at dismantling Hezbollah. In 2011, NATO airstrikes destroyed the state of Libya and executed Muammar Gaddafi, while a devastating proxy war was ignited in Syria under covert programs like Operation Timber Sycamore to overthrow the government in Damascus. Somalia was subjected to relentless covert operations and drone campaigns, and Sudan was partitioned after decades of engineered instability. Country after country on that 2001 Pentagon list was destabilized, fragmented, or overthrown. Iran was always designed to be the ultimate prize, the final domino in a calculated campaign to establish unchallenged Western supremacy over the entire Middle East. This 24-year pattern did not begin in 2001 by accident. It was the continuation of an interventionist doctrine that dates back to 1953. That was the year the CIA and British intelligence orchestrated Operation Ajax, overthrowing Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, after he dared to nationalize the country's oil reserves from British control. For 26 years, the West installed and backed the authoritarian Shah to guarantee cheap oil flows, until the 1979 Islamic Revolution swept him from power. Throughout the 1980s, Washington backed Saddam Hussein's invasion of Iran with satellite intelligence, financial credits, and chemical weapon precursors in a brutal 8-year war that claimed 1 million lives. In 1988, the U.S. Navy launched Operation Praying Mantis, destroying half of Iran's operational naval fleet, and the USS Vincennes shot down Iran Air Flight 655 inside Iranian airspace, killing 290 civilians on board. In the 1990s came the policy of dual containment. In 2002 came the axis of evil designation. The nuclear program was never the root cause of this conflict. It was simply the latest, most convenient diplomatic justification to execute a 24-year regime change doctrine. To dismantle the manufactured narrative once and for all, let us put the 4 biggest controversies and public doubts under a rigorous 3-step investigative breakdown. Question number 1. Is Iran genuinely racing to build an operational nuclear weapon, or is its program a strategic deterrent shield? Step 1. The mainstream narrative. Cable news analysts and Western political leaders repeatedly assert that Tehran is months or weeks away from an atomic bomb, driven by ideological fanaticism to destroy its neighbors and ignite a regional war. Step 2. The forensic evidence and logic break. Every major United States national intelligence estimate, representing the consensus of all 16 U.S. intelligence agencies, first published in 2007 and reaffirmed in 2011, 2023, and 2024, explicitly concluded that Iran halted its structured nuclear weapons research program in 2003 and has made no administrative or military decision to construct a nuclear warhead. Director of National Intelligence annual threat assessments presented directly to the United States Congress confirmed that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has not authorized the weaponization of nuclear material. Step 3. The strategic reality. Iran has deliberately maintained a nuclear threshold status, the technical capacity to enrich uranium without taking the final step to weaponize. This threshold acts as the ultimate sovereign insurance policy. Tehran watched Iraq get invaded because it had no weapons of mass destruction, and it watched Libya get destroyed after giving up its nuclear program in 2003. Nuclear ambiguity, not an active bomb, is Iran's defense against foreign-imposed regime change. Question number 2. Why did Washington unilaterally withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 if non-proliferation was the true objective? Step 1. The mainstream narrative. The White House claimed the JCPOA was a flawed, temporary deal that failed to restrict Iran's regional influence and ballistic missile arsenal. Step 2. The forensic evidence and logic break. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was the most intrusive arms inspection regime ever negotiated. Iran shipped 98% of its enriched uranium out of the country, filled the core of its plutonium-producing Iraq reactor with concrete, and subjected every nuclear facility to 24-hour IAEA surveillance cameras. Breaking the deal directly caused Iran to restart its advanced centrifuges and enrich to 60%. Step 3. The strategic reality. The deal failed not because it did not stop nuclear weapons, but because it permitted Iran to normalize its economy and sell oil openly. A prosperous, internationally recognized Iran integrated into the global economy directly threatened Western hegemony and the regional dominance of U.S. allies. The true goal was never non-proliferation. It was the total economic strangulation of an independent regional power. Question number 3. Why has the United States never launched a full-scale ground invasion of Iran over the past 24 years? Step 1. The mainstream narrative. The public is told that Western restraint, humanitarian concern, and diplomatic patience have held back military intervention. Step 2. The forensic evidence and logic break. In 2002, the Pentagon conducted Millennium Challenge, the largest, most expensive military war game in U.S. history, costing $250 million. The Red Team, simulating Iranian asymmetric missile and swarm boat tactics, sank 16 major U.S. warships, including an aircraft carrier, and killed 20,000 simulated American troops in the first 10 minutes of battle, forcing commanders to restart the exercise with scripted outcomes. Step 3. The strategic reality. Iran is 3 times the geographic size of Iraq, covered in mountainous terrain, and defended by a unified population of 88 million people. A ground invasion would require millions of troops, sustain catastrophic casualties, and immediately shut down the Strait of Hormuz, triggering a global economic depression. Washington has not invaded because the military cost is prohibitive. Question number 4. How did 24 years of maximum pressure backfire into creating a resilient Eurasian military economic bloc? Step 1. The mainstream narrative. Sanctions were intended to isolate Iran, dry up its revenues, and force the government to capitulate to Western demands. Despite being the most heavily sanctioned country on earth for decades, Iran's non-oil trade has expanded, its domestic industrial manufacturing has adapted, and its oil exports to Asia have climbed back above 1.5 million barrels per day through covert maritime networks and dark fleet tankers. Step 3. The strategic reality. Weaponizing the U.S. dollar and cutting Iran off from SWIFT forced Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing to pioneer non-dollar financial settlement mechanisms, direct currency swaps, and alternative trade corridors. The 24-year siege did not destroy Iran. It forged the economic and military infrastructure of an independent, multipolar world order. When you assemble every piece of this 24-year puzzle, the illusion of the nuclear crisis fades away. The nuclear narrative was never about safety, democracy, or international law. It was the public justification for a quarter-century grand strategy to dominate the energy heartland of the planet, feed the balance sheets of defense contractors, and prevent the rise of an integrated Eurasian economic network. As we look ahead, the confrontation with Iran is entering a decisive crossroad defined by 3 possible scenarios. Scenario 1. The forever hybrid siege. Washington and its allies continued the strategy of gray zone warfare, tightening financial sanctions, launching covert cyber operations, and conducting targeted assassinations, while Iran expands its asymmetric missile umbrella and de-dollarized trade, maintaining a permanent, tense stalemate. A single miscalculation in the Strait of Hormuz, the Red Sea, or across the Levant triggers an uncontrolled multi-front war. Missile strikes on energy infrastructure close the Persian Gulf. Global oil prices skyrocket past $200 a barrel, and the world economy is plunged into a catastrophic supply chain shock. Scenario 3. The multipolar realignment. As China, Russia, and the BRICS coalition solidified their alternative trade and financial architectures, Western sanctions lose their coercive power. Washington is forced to recognize that the unipolar moment in the Middle East has ended, leading to a reluctant acceptance of a multipolar balance of power across the Persian Gulf. The 24-year war plan has reached its limits against the physical realities of geography, resource dependencies, and shifting global alliances. Now the question is for you, as the old unipolar order collides with the rising powers of Eurasia, can a broader global conflict still be avoided, or has the clock already run out on diplomacy? Drop your perspective in the comments below. If this deep dive helped you see past the mainstream headlines, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next investigation into the hidden forces shaping our world.